Your cheap thrills versus Allah. A story of sin, sadness, and failure. Assalamu alaikum. This is your brother Mohammad Arshad, and I want you to feel good. In fact, I want you to feel great. You feeling good and great is so important. But what's even more important than that is the way you feel good. What do I mean by this? You could feel good by achieving something, or you could feel good by taking haram drugs. Now, of course, I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm just trying to show you that there are different ways for you to feel the emotions that you want to feel. Now, one thing to be careful of is to not let the feelings that you want to feel mess up your relationship with Allah. What do I mean by this? Let me give you an example, because I did this, right? I was sitting in my local masjid in Turkey. The masjid was empty. There was no one else there. I was the only person, and I was reading Quran. So I sat there for a few minutes reading Quran. And while I was sitting there, a man walked into the masjid. He walked into the masjid, he prayed his 2 rak'ah, or he prayed Asr, or whatever he was praying, and he basically prayed. Now, while he was praying, a terrible thing happened. My Quran recitation, it got better. Why was this terrible? Because it got better because of him, not for Allah. What a loser, I know, right? This incident got me thinking, why did I do it? I did it because of a cheap thrill. What is a cheap thrill? A cheap thrill is like just a few seconds of pleasure. It just lasts only a few seconds and then it's gone. I did it because of that, a cheap thrill. My ego wanted to feel good. So I started thinking silly things. Silly thoughts started popping into my head. Like, check me out, I'm the only one in the masjid and I'm reading Quran. And then I was thinking like, you know, this guy who walked in, he must be thinking you're a hero. And all these dumb but dangerous thoughts started coming into my head. And all of this was so that my ego got that boost that the ego really, really wants. And it felt good for those few seconds. But it was just a cheap thrill that ruined me. Why? Because I had the opportunity to get Allah's pleasure, an everlasting reward, and instead I chose a cheap thrill. How dumb, right? And to top it all off, the guy who walked into the masjid, did he come over to me and go, Muhammad, you're so great, Muhammad, I love you, Muhammad this, Muhammad that? No, nothing. He prayed and he walked out, and that was it. It was done. My good deed ruined because I chased a cheap thrill instead of the pleasure of Allah. But you know what? Thanks to the mercy of Allah, and you need to always remember this, you can turn a sin into a win. You can turn a sin into a win by repenting sincerely to Allah and learning from it. And it's exactly the same thing for failure. And it's because of this failure, this big issue that I had, that I created the IPAG formula. Not iPad, IPAG. Now this formula is actually going to help you. It's going to help you to stay safe from these kind of dangerous situations. And it's going to ensure that you get the pleasure of Allah, inshallah. So here's how it works. It's very, very simple. The first thing is intentions. The I stands for intentions. Now look, before you start a good deed, there are 2 things you need to do with your intentions. The first thing is that you need to make sure that you are doing it only for Allah. Now I know sometimes when you're doing something, you might get side benefits, right? You might do something, but you also get this benefit and this benefit. That's fine. But the main reason, the only reason you want to be doing this is for Allah. So you need to make sure that you get that right in your intentions. The second part of this is making sure that your intentions are huge. Make sure that they are big. Why? Because your reward will be based upon your intentions. So for example, if I have the intention that today I'm going to help one person, then inshallah, if I'm sincere, Allah will give me the reward for helping one person. But if I have the intention for helping 5 people, then inshallah, Allah will give me the reward for helping 5 people. The second thing is power questions. The P stands for power questions. Look, while you're doing the good deed, you can't just forget about your intentions. You must constantly monitor your intentions and bring them back onto the right path. It's a bit like a plane journey, right? When a pilot is flying a plane, they will find that they will go off course many times throughout the journey. And so they have to keep monitoring and keep going back onto the right path. Now, obviously nowadays with GPS is a bit different, But generally, it's exactly the same thing for your intentions. Just because you had this intention, it doesn't mean it's all done. You got to remember that shaitan is coming for you now. Why? Because you actually had a really good intention. You did it for Allah only. And this intention, you made it huge. So shaitan's like, right, let me go get this guy. Let me destroy his intention. Let me do this. Let me do this. And the way he does this is like he did with me, where he messes up your intention. So while you are doing the deed, in the middle of it, you need to keep checking your intention. You need to keep making sure, I'm doing this for Allah, I'm doing this for Allah, I'm doing this for Allah, and keep making sure that you are making your intentions really, really huge. Now, to help you with this, you can actually ask yourself a power question. What is a power question? A power question is something that checks. It checks and it corrects your direction and your intention. And an example of this is that imagine I was sitting back there and I was reading Quran again, I could ask myself this question. When I start to feel those emotions and have those dumb and dangerous thoughts, I could start asking myself a very simple question. Do I want a few seconds of cheap thrills, or do I want Allah's everlasting reward and pleasure? Like, imagine I actually asked this question to myself. Like, do I just want to feel these few seconds of like something positive in my heart right now, which basically will be very negative and very hurtful and destroy me? Or do I want the pleasure of Allah, and do I want His everlasting reward? Well, that's a no-brainer, right? And so this kind of course corrects you, and it makes you think about what is really important, and it pushes you towards doing what is really, really important. The third step is acceptance. The A stands for acceptance. So once the good deed is completed, you need to focus on asking Allah to accept it, okay? Because if Allah does not accept it, then this is a total loss, right? And one of the best du'as for this obviously is Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas sami'ul alim, right? And this is a du'a that the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was basically making while he was building the Kaaba. So this du'a is something that you need to do. But it's so important, because if the deed is not accepted, then it is a total loss. Alongside acceptance, by the way, this is not just about asking Allah to accept it. At the same time, we must ask Allah for forgiveness as well. Why? Because you intended to do something wrong, but we're human beings. We make mistakes. Isn't it strange that after you pray, like when you actually pray to Allah, you finish worshipping Allah, one of the first things we say is astaghfirullah. We ask Allah to forgive us, because no doubt we would have made some mistakes in our prayer. So it's the same. When you do a good deed, it is about asking Allah for acceptance, but also for forgiveness for any mistakes that you made during that as well. The fourth and final thing is gratitude. The G stands for gratitude. When you have completed this deed, do not think it is over. Shaitan will still be attacking you. He will come to you and he will say to you, oh Muhammad, you're so great, man. You did this good deed. You did it for Allah. You made it big. You focused on it. You kept correcting your intentions. You asked Allah to accept it. You asked Allah for forgiveness. You did this great thing. You need to remember that anything good that happens to you is only from Allah. Anything good that happens, do not fool yourself. Do not trick yourself into thinking, oh yeah, it is from Allah, but you know, I kind of am like this and I'm this type. No. Anything good that happens to you is a blessing from Allah, just like all the other blessings that He gave you. Do not fool yourself into thinking that this was because of you. And so, because you're in this situation now, that you've actually done something for the sake of Allah, it's something good, you need to make sure that you thank Allah. And thanking Allah is something amazing. This is something that not only fulfills our purpose as human beings to thank Allah for the blessings that He's given us, but also it leads to your success. Because Allah promises you, and this is not a normal promise. This is not me promising you. This is the Creator of all things promising you that if you give Allah thanks, He will increase you. And so by you thanking Allah for this good deed, this is a way for you to increase yourself in doing more good deeds and more deeds that are accepted as well, inshallah. So remember, whenever you're in a situation where you're trying to do something to please Allah, use the IPAG formula. Get your intentions right, make them really big. Make sure you have power questions that will course correct you and keep you on the right intention. Make sure when you finish the deed, you ask Allah for acceptance and for forgiveness. And make sure that you thank Allah, realizing that it all came from Him. May Allah make it easy for me and you to do deeds that are pleasing to Allah and that are accepted and that get us the everlasting reward, inshallah. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to press the like button. Make sure that you put it in the comments, your own stories, all these kind of things. And remember to check out the free training, and I'll see you on the next one, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.